Hey, so happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a great little turkey fest. And I always call it Happy Hokey Day because, I went to Virginia Tech, so a lot of times, we joke about it's like sacrilegious to have turkey on Thanksgiving because the Hokie bird is a turkey and it's the mascot for Virginia Tech. So happy Hokie Day, happy Thanksgiving, happy Black Friday. If you guys have any special deals or whatever that you guys are looking into for Black Friday, let me know. I love a good coupon. If anybody knows me really well, I love a percent off or a deal on something I'm going to buy anyways. So today we are going to jump into a little bit of how to schedule rest and how to basically create downtime for yourself while all these other things are going on, like deadlines and client issues in your inbox and just everything that happens when you're trying to manage a freelance writing business and trying to basically live a normal life as a human. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background for me, and I'm trying to make this a little bit chill, so it's just like Friday. So basically for me, I struggled a lot with rest, and I struggled a lot with scheduling and downtime. So what I would do often is I would just accept more deadlines and just keep moving my vacation time. So if I said like, okay, I'm going to take off the first week of June, what would end up happening is that first week of June would turn into the first week of July, which would turn into the first week of August, which would then turn into Labor Day weekend only. So what I did a lot of times was to try to schedule my rest further out. So instead of saying, I need rest now, here's a week off, what I did was transition from that to planning it out every year. So every year I try to take some time off every quarter instead of just trying to randomly say I need some time off. Let me see if I can find a week here or there. Because when I didn't schedule it ahead of time, what happened was I ended up pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I didn't actually get rest. And it made my mental health suffer. And it made a lot of my creativity with writing suffer because I just couldn't, I couldn't remember what I wrote, or I would get edits back and I'm like, oh, this sentence sucks. Like, you're totally right. And it would just be something where, it was just too much at once and I wasn't giving my brain proper time to recuperate. And that also means I wasn't getting enough sleep. So I would work till really late and then I would get up early and I would try to just cram as much as I could into a day just because I had time. So all I have are my dogs. Here's a little quick pup date. We have Charlotte's little t-shirt on. It says, pour some gravy on me. I'm going to see if I can get her to sit up. We'll see if we can get her. Little treat up. There we go. Pour some gravy on me. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's what it says. Good girl. And then Barry's over here. Good job, buddy. Yeah. So, because I only have dogs, I don't have kids. They're a little bit different, right? I don't have to, I have to raise them in a way, but it's different than having kids, so I can expand my time a lot differently. So when I was able to just expand my time the whole time, then it would end up being this long period of time where I just didn't take any time off, or I would even work into the weekends, and it would end up being just this really difficult mishmash of like poor mental health, poor sleep, poor exercise, and I wasn't really doing the self-care aspect. So if you're struggling with creating downtime for yourself, and if you're struggling with trying to schedule in rest, hi Getty, hi Vicky, I see you guys just popped in. So if you guys are struggling with that, then I'm just going to walk you through a few things. So the first thing I always recommend when you're scheduling in rest is that you end up scheduling it way ahead of time. So I have a dry erase calendar. We can't see it right now because it's over there, but I have a dry erase calendar, and every year I schedule in my rest time now. So I put in that I'm taking this week off, and I put in I'm taking this a week at the start of the year. So when I'm doing my January or December planning for the following year, that means I'm scheduling in all my rest time so that I don't, I know ahead of time that I'm not working that week, so I can tell my clients like, hey, I'm not working this week, instead of just taking stuff and then being like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not working next week. And that's just a really short timeline for your clients. So if I was going to tell them, hey, I'm taking, by the way, in 2 weeks I'm taking a week off, that's a little like more, for me at least, it was a lot harder to actually stick to that than having it in a calendar and knowing I'm taking time off in March and June and September. That made it a little bit more clear where I could look ahead. When I was scheduling all my projects and talking with clients, I'm like, okay, just as a heads up, like we're talking in August, they want to start in September, and then just notifying them before we actually get started, like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be off this week. And that way it was already pre-planned. I had planned it in December and January, and it was easier for me to stick to. So that's number one. Number two little piece here is that you have some sort of help around you. So for me, I have a partner who reminds me, like, hey, I think you're working too much. Hey, you're driving me crazy. Hey, you're just calm down. Like, there's a lot of times when my anxiety kind of like about deadlines or my work or just in general kind of gets a hold of me, and I end up being very like controlling, or I'm like, everything has to be a certain way. And I get in this mode where, like how I edit my work very regimented, and I get in this very specific mode for editing where every little word counts in every sentence, and then it just kind of spills over into the rest of my life. Like, the dishes need to go here, and like it's just like a whole thing. So if you have someone in your life, like maybe even if they don't live with you, maybe even if you can check in with them and have a conversation with them once a week, that would really help to keep you on track when someone else outside of the situation can say, hey, I've noticed you're feeling, you're doing all this stuff that sounds like you're really tired, or you've mentioned to me the last few times we've talked how tired you are, or like you seem really particular, or you sound really groggy. Maybe there's different things for you. Like, I know for me, it's like I get controlling, I get very particular about things. I'll say I'm tired a lot without noticing it. And I'll also just be really kind of grumpy sometimes. Like, I'll just have a bad attitude because I'm so tired and worn out. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. I have to go do that. Like, I have to work. Or, oh, I just want to lay down and take a nap. Like, there's a lot of things where it just pops up when I start getting tired and when I've worked too much. And my mental health is just like, oh, God, like, don't make me do another thing. So maybe talking to someone nearby, someone close to you, like a close friend or a family member regularly can help you figure out what stage you're at if you're not paying attention. Because I know for me and a lot of writers I've talked to, the rest part isn't apparent to us until it's like way too late. It's way too late in the process and we're like, oh, we're burning out, or oh, we're really tired, or I've taken in, like the other day, I've never done this before. The other day I ended up taking a 5-hour nap, and then I got up and went to bed for 12 hours. So I took a 5-hour nap, I got up for a little bit, got some water, and then I just went to bed. Like, I went to bed for 12 hours. I went to sleep. So I've never done that, but I knew that was a big signal. I'm very, very tired. Like beyond the point that I even noticed how tired I was. And it wasn't really until I had a discussion about it later on, like, oh man, like that is really a bad thing. Like that is really how tired I am. So having those discussions, having someone around you is really helpful to get an outside perspective. It could be friends, family, partner, significant other, therapist, just someone that you can talk to. Or like, hey, I've noticed you've been doing this a lot. Maybe you need a break. Number 3 would be that, almost lost my earbud, classic Mandy. So number 3 would be that if you're trying to deal with mental health issues, those kind of have to come first. So I have I have several freelance writers who, like, when I write about my mental health, with anxiety or dealing with feeling pressured or overwhelmed, I've had them write back that they also struggle with depression or anxiety or certain, mental health issues. And I think that kind of has to come first. If you're really anxious, and you're feeling really depressed, or you're feeling like you can't control things, you're, really sad all the time, or you're having trouble getting up, or you're anxious to the point, for me, my anxiety got to a point where my skin got messed up, my skin ached and my skin hurt, and it was really dry and it was really itchy. And for me, that was I didn't know at the time, but now I know whenever my skin starts getting really dry or I start feeling a certain way, I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention to my mental health first. For me, a lot of times that's therapy. I also take medication. We talked about that a little bit. But there's a lot of little pieces here where if your mental health is suffering, that's going to make your work suffer. If your mental health is suffering, your writing brain isn't in the place that it needs to be. So when you're suffering with, when you're dealing with mental health stuff, that has to come first. And sometimes that's sleep. That really helps mental health. Sometimes it's exercise. Sometimes it's pets. For me, a lot of times it's hanging out with my dogs or hanging out with my significant other. But I think if that's something that you're really struggling with, you have to deal with that first, and then you can deal with all the work stuff. So you can kind of, like, for me, I deal with them concurrently. So that means I'm dealing with them, like I'm doing therapy and I'm taking medication and I'm dealing with my work stuff. But for a while, after I burned out, all I did was deal with my mental health because it was just too much. Like I didn't take any work for a while, like a month. I pushed a lot of deadlines. I slept a lot. Like I slept like 14 hours a day or 13 hours a day for like a week, which is really unusual for me. I think it is for most people. So I think that has to be a piece that you really consider and that you really deal with when you're having trouble scheduling rest time and you're thinking about how your mental health affects your writing abilities. So if you're tired and you're just kind of reaching for whatever words or assignments or clients are out there, you're not really building a great business either. You're kind of just taking it, like, oh, I'll take this piece and I'll take this piece and then I'll take that piece. You're not quite actually being intentional about building your business. You're just kind of like, I'm so effing tired right now and I just need a break, and I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling really depressed, or I'm feeling really that tired, grumpy, irritated, whatever it is. That's a point to stop and kind of take a break. And maybe you extend deadlines like I did. Maybe you take some time off, which definitely schedule that in, or maybe talk to a therapist. But there's a lot of pieces where like your mind is driving your writing ability. Your mind is driving how you function in daily life. It's driving how you show up for your clients and how you work with them. It's driving a lot of pieces of your business. So if you kind of ignore that and you're just kind of driving the bus is going to have no wheels. Like there's no snacks or drinks on the bus. Like the bus is a rusted out piece of metal. Like that's a big problem. What we want to do is make sure that the bus we're driving is functional, and then it can do it the best it can. And it has all the things it needs to keep going. And part of that is dealing with mental health, like putting that first when you're really struggling to, get all your writing done or meet your deadlines, or you're really tired and need some rest. So that would be a number 3. I'm going to pop one more in here since we have a little bit more time before we get to questions. So when you're thinking about writing better and writing more creatively, when you schedule in so much time that you don't have time to deal with mental health and rest, like you're not going to be having the ability to be as creative. You're basically shortening the box. So for me, a lot of times the way I think about it is when I'm more open and I can think about the words I want to use or give myself more time to marinate over a topic, it's just a lot wider. It's like looking out into an open field or like an open ocean. Like there's a lot more stuff that I can think about, and I can marinate and think on it and try to really give the piece a lot more sparkle than just trying to rush through it and just get it done and get it out the door. So when you're scheduling your rest time, instead of trying to cram everything in and get all the deadlines you can and shrinking it, shrinking the box where you're like, okay, I can only run in this little box for a little while because I only have this much time, instead of being like, okay, I need more space to think about this. I want to use different words. Oh, Bo's doing a little readjusting. So I want to use more space. I need more mental areas to think in. That is a time when you need to think about rest. You need to give yourself the space to have a little bit more open area to give those pieces that extra little bit of like spiciness to make them really exciting or make them, really nice for your clients. You having a trouble, Bear? Hold on. We have a little bear break. What happened, bud? What happened? You move your blanket around and now it's all messed up. You want a Trito? He's like, yeah, I'll take a Trito. Good job, buddy. Why don't you lay down? Why don't you lay down, bud? It's okay. It's Friday. We're enjoying the day. You're like, I don't know. Okay. So, writing creatively, you need space to think about stuff. You need to think about word choices. You need to think about phrases. You need to think about not using cliche stuff like, like local gem or like there's a bunch of phrases that writers use that just kind of shovel in, right? They're the shoehorn of like, I can't think of anything. I'll just say this thing. It's the thing I've read 100 times. We want to kind of stay away from that. And the way to do that is to be more creative, but we need that creative space. So when you're thinking about being creative, getting your writing done, you need to give yourself that space. So whether that's a few more days to get it done, whether that's getting more sleep and being like, you know what? I need to get this piece done, and it really needs to get that sparkle. I need to be in bed by 9:30, and I need to get up at this time so that I have enough space to do that amongst my other responsibilities. It might mean that you're like, okay, this piece is just not coming together right now. I need to ask for a deadline extension. And then while I have that deadline extension, I need to like put it down for a bit and come back to it in a day. Or I need to write a garbage draft and come back to it in a day when my mind is clearer. But scheduling in that time to kind of give yourself the space. I always think of it this way. It's like a lot bigger than this little box. Like sometimes we're running around in a mouse maze trying to get everything done. It's a mouse maze of like, oh my gosh, this deadline. Oh my God, where's the cheese? Oh my God. Da, da, da. And that just makes it really hard to write creatively. It makes it hard to like, when you're writing a travel story, really pick those words that describe a scene. It's really hard to give yourself the space to be like, well, what was the name of that wallpaper, or what was the name of that dish, or pull from the details that you got from a tour or from a fact sheet, something like that. And when you have that space to be creative, instead of running around in the little mousetrap box, right? When you have that space, it's a lot easier to kind of put everything together and see it in a bigger picture rather than, okay, this thing, and then go around this little trap right here. So when you're looking at all these little pieces, it's a lot easier when you're thinking about it in a big scape of things and you have space to do that. So if you're finding that your writing is suffering and that you're coming back and looking at something and you're like, I don't remember writing this, or this doesn't really work, or you get edits and you're like, wow, she's right, this is bad, or yeah, he said this and it's, oh my gosh, it's just really awful, or I don't know. I've gotten edits back where I'm just like, oh yeah, they're totally right. This is wrong. And when you're seeing that kind of stuff, schedule in the rest, work on your deadlines, figure out how you can kind of spread those out a little bit more. Schedule your time, schedule your rest time ahead of time, and make sure that you're giving yourself that space to be creative instead of trying to jam everything in every minute of every hour of every day. So those are kind of a few things I've kind of learned over the years in terms of struggling with rest and writing creativity and getting everything scheduled so that I do really well for my clients. I write really great stuff, but I also get to sleep and rest and like have time to just watch movies, like, or eat snacks, or hang out, or go for more walks. So I'm gonna close it off there. I'm gonna give you guys a little update while I switch over. So if you guys have questions, you can drop them in the chat. And if you guys felt this was helpful at all, press that like button and make sure you subscribe for videos every week about freelance writing tips. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm going to give you guys a quick update and give them a little treat. So now we got them all settled in. Oh, there's Charlotte's creepy eye. Hi, Charlotte. Is that your creepy eye? There we go. Good girl. Oh, my goodness. What a good girl. You're having a great day. And you look super cute in your little pour some gravy on me t-shirt. Good job. Bear, you want a Cheeto? He's like, no, I'm settled now. I don't want one. You do want one. There you go, buddy. Good job. All right. So if you guys have questions, you can pop them in the chat. I can also go over questions I normally get. So a lot of times what I end up getting for questions is like, how do I actually schedule it in? Like, what do I do? So a lot of times I like a digital calendar and a dry erase calendar. So my Mac calendar, my Apple calendar, iCal, whatever you call it, that runs my life. So my iCal runs my life. That's where all my appointments are. That's where I see it week by week what's going on. That's where I can see, where quarterly or monthly where my vacations are. But then big term planning, like if I have big deadlines or I want to see my year at a glance or I want to see what quarter we're in, I use my dry erase calendar. So I bought this dry erase calendar from Amazon. It was super, super cheap. And I use it to mark off the days of the year. So I'm like, okay, here's how much time I have left in the year. Here's what's going on. Here's my vacation time. Or here's when friends are coming for holidays. Or here's when there's 3-day weekends or, government holidays or anything like that. Those are all in there. So that dry erase calendar is more of a big picture view. That really helps me see the big picture of the year a lot cleaner. And then my day-to-day, week-to-week stuff is all in my iCal. And I know there are some freelance writers who really like to use paper calendars. Like they have a big monthly paper calendar that they use. Sometimes they have a planner where they go through every Friday and then they plan for the next week in there. I think whatever system works for you, I think you should use that. Like I've tried paper before, writing it in, and it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't. It for me, I need to see the digital appointments. They're all scheduled through Dubsado. So I have a CRM that's Dubsado, and that's where I schedule all of my interviews or my client calls. So for me, the paper calendar is like, now I have to write everything that was in my digital calendar is scheduled on piece of paper, and that to me felt really pointless. But some people, writing it down helps them remember it. It helps them schedule their time a little bit better. It helps them see things like when it's Friday and they're planning for the following week on Monday. That means that they can actually see ahead of time, like, well, what am I thinking for next week? Like for me, a lot of times it's looking at deadlines, looking at appointments, what's coming up the next week on my iCal, just because it's like already pre-planned. Like I don't have to do anything because people schedule online, or I've already marked it off. And every time I get a deadline, I just put it in my iCal with 10,000 reminders so I can't miss it. And then that kind of helps me schedule and rest. That means that I'm got reminders on for rest. That means that a month before my week off or 3-day weekend, whatever, I set reminders that say like, hey, in a month you're taking a week off, don't forget. Or hey, 2 days from now don't forget, like you got to finish everything before now because you want to take this time off. Same thing with my dry erase. My dry erase doesn't have reminders, obviously, because it's paper or plastic or whatever it is, but it has planning there where I can see what's going on in a big picture erase. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot it's September, but Thanksgiving is coming and Christmas, and I need to plan for a lot of things that are coming up in the future, and I'm not looking at that so much in my iCal. So when you're planning for rest, I'm looking over here because my dry erase is over here. I also have my dry erase for notes. So let's say I didn't have enough rest, or I just, like, your writing sucked this month, or, you needed some time to, like, get that creativity back. I'll write that in the notes. Like, I'll write wins in the notes. I'll write little, like, things that happen, like, hey, you signed this many clients, or you got this client you really loved, or whatever it is. I'll put those in the notes, but I'll also make sure to write, like, hey, you need to pay attention to this because this is not cool for the future. You need to take some time off. You need to rest. You need to go to sleep at a reasonable hour, all that stuff. So we have a Thomas question. Let's go in for Tommy. So Tommy says, do you ever feel guilty for taking time off? I have trouble with this even though I know it's not rational at all. Yes. So I dealt with this for a very long time. Do I ever feel guilty for taking time off? I felt guilty for taking time off all the time because it was, as freelance writers, we don't make money when we're taking time off. It's not like we get PTO or OOO or whatever you want to call it in the regular 9-to-5 world. We don't get paid for taking time off. We end up scheduling deadlines out so that we can get paid later. We might get a check during the time when, like, I've gotten checks and gotten ACH while I'm on vacation or time off, but it's not like I get actually paid for those 5 business days that I'm not working. So that makes me feel guilty because it's like I'm not earning money and I'm not getting work done, and I'm, kind of taking self-care over work. And I'm, all of the guilt happens, for me at least, a lot from like not working and not making money. So the rest time seems kind of like indulgent, right? Because it's like, oh, well, you're not actually making money. You're not actually participating. Like, all these other people are doing things and you're sitting around watching Pixar movies. So I think it's totally normal to feel guilty for taking time off. What changed for me in the guilt of time off was just that I burned out, and I learned that you have to take time off to actually do great work and to get better clients and to move up. Like, the burning out taught me that, like, whatever reason I want for taking time off is only my reason. It doesn't matter to anybody else. It shouldn't matter to anybody else. I can just say no, right? Like, if someone's like, hey, can you do this week? No, like, I'm off that week. So the guilt for me went away when I just realized, when I burned out, like, I can't actually work if I'm burned out. I can't do great stuff if I'm tired. I can't deliver for my clients or do the kind of writing I want to do if I'm exhausted, or my mental health is suffering, or I'm so anxious my skin hurts and it's dry and it's itchy. So the guilt kind of went away just because I realized that time off is how I end up making money. It's how I end up making a big difference in my business. That time off is how I actually get ahead. Rather than feeling guilty for not making money in the moment, I think that's short term. That's a short-sighted way to look at it. The money of that week doesn't matter, but the money of the next several months really matters. And without that time off, then you don't get the future payoff, basically, and you don't get to make better work, and you don't actually get to find clients in that time. Like the short-sightedness of 5 business days, right? Think about that. 5 business days. We have 360 other days to make money. 5 business days off, or 9 days with 2 weekends, right? Is that right? I'm not so great with mental. Yeah, it's 9 days. Okay. So if we take 5 days off a year, like let's say we work every other day, the weekends or whatever, we take 5 days off, there's 360 other days we can make money. Even if you don't count weekends, whatever that number is, if you subtract all the weekends of the year, then subtract 5 extra business days, that's not going to make or break you. That's not going to change the course of your life, of your freelance career. Like, if anything, it would make it a lot harder for you to keep going. That's what I've noticed. If you don't take that time off for yourself and you don't pay attention to how you're going to move forward, long-term planning, like quarterly, right? Like 3 months, 6 months, a year, 9 months. Those periods of time are a lot more important than worrying about 5 business days or 10 business days if you take 2 weeks off. I know a lot of writers who take sabbaticals. Sometimes I knew a writer who was in a community with me who took 3 months off. She took the summer off, and her business was a little dead when she came back, but then within a month, boom, she had a bunch of clients. And that was because she had rested, and then she could come back and do a bunch of marketing. Now, 3 months, I think you have to have a pretty good financial cushion to do that. You have to have a business that could kind of bounce back. I know other writers have taken a month off, but if you were going to think about doing that, basically the way you do it is you say like, hey, I'm not going to be here for June, July, and August. I'm happy to talk about work in September. Or if you're like, hey, I'm taking September off, or I'm taking, my dream has always, I'm going to let you guys in. So my dream has always been to be done with work for the year by Thanksgiving. So I would take Thanksgiving all the way through January off, and that would give me enough space to do more planning, get more rest. That's kind of my dream, is just, I feel like that's a slow time for me, just with the weather, and it's a little bit, I feel like a lot of people go on autopilot during that time too. Like, yeah, we have end of the year deadlines. I have end of the year deadlines. I have a bunch of things to get done, right? But to me, that's always a great period of time, because Thanksgiving, there's only 3 weeks usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas, or like 3 business weeks in there. And again, 15 extra days I don't think is a big deal. So that's always been my dream. And the way to plan that is like, hey, I'm not available until January. And a lot of times what's surprising is that when you tell clients you're not available, that they're like, oh my gosh, hot commodity, like I gotta get them. Or, oh my gosh, oh man, like I'm so disappointed, but let's talk about Q1. Like I'd love to talk about that. Those are the good clients. The bad clients are like, okay, bye, F you, like I'm done. I need someone right now. Like if they need someone right now, a lot of times like that can be poor planning, because they're like, oh crap, we need someone to write it right now. Like, help. So I like the idea of just saying like, hey, it's the end of July. I'm not available in August, but I'm available in September. And they don't even have to know why. You don't have to say like, I'm taking a month off because I'm tired, or I need a mental health break, or I need rest, or I need to sleep, or, I want to go feed the ducks at the pond and have some mental space, or whatever. You don't have to say that. You just say, hey, I'm not available in August. I'm happy to talk to you in September. And a lot of times, freelance writers say that anyways, because you have a project, right? Let's say you get a big giant project and it takes up all of your August. You get a big white paper or some sort of project that just takes the whole month. There's a lot of times where you say, hey, I'm not available until X date. Or even if you're booked up this quarter, you say, hey, that's great. I'm not available till Q3. Let's talk about it then. That's a big different thing. And you don't have to explain like, oh, it's a project, or, oh, I'm taking time off. But if you have all that planning, if you're planning quarterly, if you can look at your schedule, taking bigger chunks of time off, like a month, are a lot easier, because you don't have to like lose momentum in your business. You just say like, hey, not this month, but next month, or not this quarter, next quarter. So I hope that was really helpful. We're almost at the end of time here, so if there's any other questions from anybody else, I'm happy to answer those. So one last thing, with mental health and rest, like if you ever feel like you need help, always reach out for help. Like there's a lot of times where people, I feel like, just kind of suffer in silence. But if you're ever feeling like you need help with mental health, if you ever feel like you need help with dealing with anxiety or depression, or you need to schedule rest, or you're just not feeling like yourself. Like, I didn't really realize mine was like not feeling like myself as much until I was talking to a therapist. But if you ever need help, always reach out and get help. I hope that if you feel that you just can't handle things, or it's overwhelming, or it's too much, you can get a community. Like, you can join the Freelance Writers Den. They're open right now. That's where I am. I'm a moderator. Or you can join another writing community. You can join, there's a bunch of mental health communities too. There's NAMI, N-A-M-I. There's a bunch of different places. But then also, if you feel like you might need to speak to someone one-on-one, therapy always works. So if you're struggling with mental health and feeling overwhelmed and all that stuff, it's totally okay. Like, get help. It always helps. Like, I can't tell you how many times going to therapy has changed my business. I can't tell you how many times, like, actually, deciding to take medication for anxiety has helped me focus on my work and not worry about all the other thoughts and anxieties and things going on. So if you need help, if you need to rest, all that stuff, just reach out for help from someone that you trust. And I hope that was helpful. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hope you have a good Black Friday filled with wonderful deals and coupons. Bye.